How do documentary films engage an audience? Documentaries may appeal to our predispositions and experiences, emotions and beliefs on a known subject, and a sense of curiosity. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Documentaries are organized sequences of shots, conceptual or abstract. Documentaries may have a problem-solution structure, a story with a beginning and an end. They may focus on a crisis, an emphasis on a mood or a tone, and a way of seeing things. Persuasion. Ideologically, value systems compete to remain dominant or to gain legitimacy. Persuasion requires communication, and communication depends on a means of representation. Documentaries activate our aesthetic awareness and our social consciousness. Documentaries present a distinct perspective from our shared world. Documentaries draw on evidence but are not themselves documents. They possess a voice and a perspective of their own with which they communicate to us. They become one voice among many in the arena of social debate. Metaphor. Documentary films contribute their distinct, persuasive powers to the debate. Metaphors gives us way of likening war or love or family to something else that has similar qualities. Many metaphors have a root in direct experience, but link such experience to a more abstract or intangible qualities. The selection and arrangement of sound and images provide an immediate form of audible and visual experience. Their organization into a larger whole presents a metaphorical representation of what something in the world is like. Whether a documentary film is deemed a work of propaganda or not, the ideological intent to persuade or convince is at the root of most documentaries. Our textbook author says, documentary film and video moves us to understand and engage in the historical world in ways that matter. Before World War II, the documentary Triumph of the Will was praised and awarded. After the war, it was deemed a piece of Nazi propaganda. Consider the filmmaker's past work. Consider the relationship between the filmmaker and the subject. What perspective does the viewer bring into the film with them? Was Triumph of the Will a different film in 1935 than it is today? This is an optional watch for extra credit. Triumph of the Will was directed by Leni Riefenstahl in 1935. This week's assigned documentary is The Fog of War. Let's take a look at how rhetoric works in the film. Documentary films mount an effort to convince, persuade, or predispose us to a particular view of the world we have in common. Documentary work does not appeal exclusively to our aesthetic sensibility. It may entertain or please, but does so in relation to a rhetorical or persuasive effort aimed at the existing social world. 3 divisions of rhetoric: deliberative, what to do; judicial or historical, what really happened; commemorative or critical, what he or she is really like. We will see judicial and historical and commemorative and critical inside of The Fog of War. Biographical and autobiographical documentaries. Biographical documentaries can assign praise or blame to others or both. In autobiographical documentaries, filmmakers explore their own lives in essay and diary presentations. In both forms of documentary, an individual can be represented or misrepresented by a variety of means. Fairness and impartiality are not always honored. This week's assigned documentary, The Fog of War, directed by Errol Morris in 2003, won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. We have 2 choices for our critical writing assignment. Be sure to read the syllabus in detail for more information. Choice 1. Documentarian Errol Morris has a prolific career spanning more than 4 decades. Do some research into Morris's filmography. Write about his influence and the importance of his films. Choice 2. Robert McNamara, the subject of The Fog of War, is a controversial figure. Do some research into his background as Secretary of Defense for 2 presidents. How does the information you uncovered confirm or run counter to the portrait presented of him in the film? And some factoids about Robert McNamara here. I thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a productive week.